at Realcomm Live, continuing our live interviews. I'm joined by Alex Grace of Clockworks Analytics. I'm very quickly Joe Aamidor of Aamidor Consulting. Do a lot of work in the smart building space, product market strategy. Alex, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be with you, Joe.
Yeah, it's I guess 8 months since our last one. Why don't you start with just a quick introduction and maybe just tell us a little bit about Clockworks?
Yeah, sure thing. I'm Vice President of Sales and Business Development with Clockworks Analytics. Been with the company for 9 years now, so very close to the early days when the company was founded out of MIT.
Yeah.
Founders did PhDs in building science and came aboard pretty close to the beginning there to start scaling the program.
Yeah, I think I first met Nick, one of the co-founders, CEO, 10, 11, 12 years ago, actually at a Realcomm. I was just really impressed, and a lot of my colleagues were really impressed. And it's been great to see your growth over the years.
Thank you.
Within fault detection, maybe that's a term that I know means a lot in detail to me, probably to you, but there's also, you hear fault detection, it can be kind of a nebulous term. So maybe just start with how you think of fault detection, what Clockworks kind of core value proposition, where that lands, and how it differentiates a little bit.
Absolutely, happy to. So it's true, it's been around a little while, and we talk a lot about really that second D, so fault detection and diagnostics. Right. So if we just break that down real quick, a lot of people running buildings are familiar with alarming, right? Yep. Temperature's too high, trigger an alarm. Yep. And we have to react. There's a lot of firefighting that goes into alarm management, right? And then when we get into fault detection, there's another level where we're starting to pick up more faults that are occurring in the building, but you tend to have a laundry list of faults in the same way that you have a laundry list of alarms. There's just so many problems happening in buildings. Yeah. And then you really need an engineer or someone skilled that can take that list of faults and really dive into it and understand how the things are connected. Right. When we start talking about fault detection and diagnostics, we're talking about getting to the root cause of the problem. So not just triggering a laundry list of faults, but actually triggering them in a way that they're rolled up together. Yeah. And that the interrelated nature of them is collective in a whole, putting together into a core diagnostic, which means getting to the root cause of the problem and fundamentally spending less time troubleshooting, more time fixing. Yeah,
that makes sense. Alarms, if you're an engineer of a building, you get an alarm that might just say, oh, it's not the right temperature. It's like, great, but you could think across millions of square feet, you might get a lot of alarms. At some point you start ignoring them. One challenge of what I hear you saying at least is, if you're just getting faults that kind of tell you the same thing or maybe slightly deeper, there's a fault in this room, that almost could become just the next version of an alarm where it gets ignored, it gets,
that's right.
You're not really acting on it.
Yeah, that's right. We think of fault detection as, there's a fine line between advanced alarming and fault detection. Yeah. But once you add that diagnostics layer, now you're cutting through a lot of noise and saying, fundamentally, if I'm running a building, what do I want to know? We've never met a facilities team that's looking for another to-do list, one. Yeah. We've also never met a facilities team that feels that they're not short-staffed, right? Yeah. So the reality is it's getting harder and harder. So there's interesting demographic trends happening as well. More people are retiring, right? The war for talent when it comes to people that really understand the technical systems in buildings is a big topic. So more and more there's a need for technology to say, look, what are my top priorities? And if you're running a building, do I know that my people are working on those top priorities every single day? Right. And then how do you define priority? What is it costing us? What's the impact from a risk perspective, meaning threatening the health of my equipment? Yeah. And what's the impact from a comfort of building occupants? Can I avoid hot and cold calls by knowing where those problems are beforehand? And then now, of course, the big topic of indoor air quality as well. Can I pick up on my ventilation issues and be able to make sure that my building is performing the way I want it to? Right.
It's so funny, one of the points you made 10, 12 years ago, I remember a lot of the discussion around, I don't need software because I have staff that does that. And I like the staff, I want to retain the staff. And now it's very much flipped of, I don't have enough staff to do what I need to do, and this can augment my labor. Which I think is a good thing. That's what we want to see, because software isn't necessarily, I personally don't believe we're just not going to have people running buildings. I just think what they do might be a little more data driven, a little bit more higher value of tasks.
That's right. That's totally true. It's interesting. I almost forgot. It's like 10 years ago, there's a lot of, there was kind of a threatening feeling.
Exactly.
Like technology's coming in.
I don't know if I want to try this technology.
Right. What does that look like? The reality is there are always more problems in buildings than there are people to fix them, no matter what. That's always been the case. And being able to identify where those are, and again, less time troubleshooting, more time fixing, is what we hear consistently is a huge deal. And if we just kind of break that down and you think about a preventative maintenance program, so you're regularly doing preventative maintenance on equipment. But for example, no one's doing preventative maintenance on every VAV box in a building, right? So how do you know where those problems are in a proactive manner, right? Because you're not going to check all them all the time. So, you know, some of our clients say having Clockworks is like having a room full of engineers that don't sleep, that don't take bathroom breaks, that are constantly telling me where my issues are so that I can get ahead of them. Or I like how someone phrased it to us recently. They said, you know, we're in the facilities world, we're constantly looking in the rear view mirror. And Clockworks allows me to look through the front windshield. So that's another one I like.
That's a good way to think about it as well. It seems like you've also, just with your 10 plus years in the market, you've also been able to scale in individual accounts quite significantly, and that probably informs a lot of the value propositions that you just described. But it also is, to some degree, a contrast with this market, and they've talked about it here at Realcomm. You know, I think 140 some vendors, where last year, which was a smaller show, was 70 vendors. There's been an explosion of vendors, but sometimes those are very early stage vendors. So maybe, you know, we could break it up from a technology and maybe a people point of view, but from a technology point of view, you know, what's some of the specifics within Clockworks of how you've been able to scale?
Thanks. That's a great question. So, really interesting. I mean, right now we're monitoring about 450 million square feet.
Got it.
That's across 320,000 mechanical assets. An asset being a chiller, a pump, a boiler, an air handling unit, a VAV box, and that's in about 30 countries. So we do have some experience doing this. The other number that's really important for us is engagement and action. So we've had over 30,000 tasks completed within Clockworks. That means a technician actually went to fix a problem because Clockworks identified that problem, and we're able to get benefit as a result when it comes to avoiding equipment failure, avoiding downtime, saving energy, improving comfort. So how have we been able to do that from a scaling perspective? On the tech side, really important is the core information model that you're working with. So what makes Clockworks extremely unique is that we have this centralized information model. And what does that mean? It means really representing physical assets in a digital way. Another way to kind of think about it would be a digital twin without the 3D model.
Got it.
Without the 3D layer. So what is all the information that you need to have to understand how this building, equipment and systems are supposed to function? And Clockworks runs in that central way, one core information model, one core set of expert systems, which is an early form of AI. It's a form of diagnostics that incorporates human knowledge, so different than machine learning. And then applying that globally. So that's on the tech side. That's really important. Having a scalable approach to not have to do custom coding and not have information silos on each building that you come into.
Whereas the building automation systems are already that siloed information. So you across a campus, which if it's a university campus, they might have multiple building automation systems at individual buildings.
Absolutely.
So you're unlocking is maybe, you know, the term of the day, but the information in those silos.
That's right. That's right. Bringing it to that central cloud layer where you can run diagnostics in a uniform way.
Okay. And then on the people side, I guess there's also kind of, you know, being able to help part of the transition, which is sometimes overlooked. If you do things as a facility manager, chief engineer, building engineer, a certain way, it may be hard just to do it differently. Even if the new way, the data-driven way, is a better way of doing things. But you know, I would imagine you have a lot of experience helping organizations transition in that way as well, right?
Yeah, we do, absolutely. The people side is obviously critical. When it comes to our world with Clockworks and diagnostics, you're constantly identifying where the problems are. If no one takes that information and fixes it, or fundamentally puts it into a workflow, then we haven't accomplished anything. That's why that 30,000 task number is so important to us. So we end up kind of almost becoming into a little bit of a management consulting role to look at what is the workflow of how work moves through this facilities organization, and how do we align with that as much as possible. One of the things that we see is that from an owner perspective, if you see this world of diagnostics and Clockworks as a separate program, as a new program, as an innovation program, it's really hard to then build that into your core operation. So we try to be as close to the core operation as possible because yes, we identify a lot of optimization opportunities, a lot of chances to save energy, a lot of really interesting things, But we also identify a lot of leaking valves, stuck dampers, broken sensors. This is blocking and tackling from a maintenance perspective that maintenance teams are already having to deal with every single day.
Right.
So the closer we can align with how do you do those things now, and how do we fit into your core processes, the better the results will be long term.
Yeah, it seems like the ROI is really multifaceted. A lot of firms, the easiest, what I tend to advise clients or just talk to folks about, the energy savings is an easy ROI to figure out because you're metering your energy. You get a bill. It has a dollar amount on it. You can track the savings, and that's valid. I think energy savings is a part of the ROI, but there's a lot of other aspects of ROI, and you kind of generally touched on them, and maybe there's more to share on. Just you're able to avoid avoiding a leak that can keep somebody in their space, whereas if there's a very large leak, the water damage might kick them out for a while.
That's right. I mean, on the energy side, the ROI is very well established now with like the Smart Energy Analytics campaign funded by DOE out of Lawrence Berkeley National Labs. And then those broader values when it comes to risk management, we're finding to be increasingly important for a lot of our clients that say, if we can avoid downtime, if it's a critical site, or if we can avoid people from complaining, this is a big deal for our business. Yeah. So, and then indoor air quality, being able to really validate, we asked a fundamental question over the last couple of years, do you know where all your stuck outdoor air dampers are? Yeah. What that means is you've got no fresh air coming into the building. Right. So if you're investing in lots of other tech around indoor air quality and sensing and various things, fantastic, please do it. Yeah. But if you don't know that where you have buildings where there's no outdoor air, that's a real problem. Yeah. Yeah, I think being able to actually close the loop is to some degree what I hear you saying, being able to quantify the savings across multiple facets, but also being able to close the loop of going from just we are tracking some data and identifying a problem to we're actually helping you identify that it's been resolved. That's true. That's right.
Yeah. So I think we're about ready to wrap up. Alex, it's been a pleasure to see you, be able to share the stage with you, talk a little bit about Clockworks,
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about Realcomm, what's happening in the industry. So I think from there, we'll close it out, and thanks again.
Appreciate it, Joe. Thank you.